What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Make It Kustom. I'm Carl Fisher. Today's episode, we are back in the 1956 Buick mini car. We are going to get some major work done on this thing today. I'm just so excited to be working on this project. So don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications. Let's do it. All right, what is the plan for this video? Last video, we got the gas shocks installed. We're tilting the body. A lot of you guys are asking me, why are you doing that? Could you tilt it on the front? Let's just kind of run through that real quick. The reason I tilted it at the back is because of the angle of the steering column. I wanted the steering column to stay with it, and since it's tipping back, it allows the steering column to stay with the car. One of the major reasons why I'm tilting it, there's a lot of work to be done under that body. That body's super heavy. I don't want to have to do a ton of on and off. So I've got controls to do up front. I've got brakes, I've got gas. We've got some other things to install, and I just figured that it would be a little bit easier to work on the car with the body being able to go up and down. Having said that, I do know that having the body go up and down is pretty cool. And today we are not only going to mount the gas tank and the battery, but when I was shopping for a battery, I found this. If you don't know what this is a linear actuator. And I found that Princess Auto, it's kind of like Canada's Harbor Freight. They've got all kinds of fun stuff to do projects with. One of the things they stock now, this is news to me, is a full line of universal linear actuators. And I thought that was just awesome. So the gas shocks are just enough on this body right now to lift and lower it. Once we add interior, the gas shocks might be a little bit weak. Like it would probably still work. But the beautiful thing about that is the gas shocks are taking most of the weight. Now we can use a linear actuator to make it go up and down. This has the same travel as the gas shocks, so we can mount it in the same place as the gas shocks. And one more thing, also just at Princess Auto, can't believe this, they make it so easy for you. I'm sure you could get this stuff other places, but it's made it so easy for me. 2-button, handheld, wireless remote control. I guess it's kind of showing off. You'd be around, you want to show somebody underneath the car, kind of open the latch, hit the button, lifts the whole body up. Pretty cool. So I think right now I'm going to do a bunch of work at the back. So at the back of the car, where the gas shocks are, oops, oh, that bolt just came out of that. But where those gas shocks are, we're going to make a permanent mount because I do think that they are in a good spot now, nice and tucked behind that rear axle. We're going to make a mount for that, make a mount for the linear actuator, and then we're going to try and squeeze a gas tank on the left side and a battery on the right side to some kind of bolt-in bracket that it bolts the motor plate to the chassis for added strength, but is removable in case we ever have to pull out that rear axle. We can unbolt the battery gas tank bracket to remove the rear axle. That's what I'm going to get started on. Just making up those brackets, figuring out what we're going to do there, and let's get into it. Okay, so I just wanted to talk about the kind of my process for designing brackets like these. What I like to start with is a few basic measurements. So I've got the top motor plate here, I've got the bottom frame rail here, and then I've measured the distance I have between points that I cannot move, which is the motor plate itself and this back bar. So how much space do I have to put the battery and the gas tank in? I've got some measurements like the diameter of the gas tank. I've got an idea to put a couple of bolt holes through the motor plate to make that unboltable. So I've got measurements for the distance that I have between those bolt holes. I also have where I'm going to mount the gas shocks permanently. I'd love to incorporate it into one bracket. Anytime that you can do more than one thing with a bracket, I think it's kind of important to do that. Always makes for like a little bit cleaner job. And then I've got a bunch of space in here that I can put tabs for bolt holes. So these are just kind of the critical measurements that I can think of right off the bat, and then everything else is kind of up to your design. So what I've got next is kind of a shape that I want to go with, or an idea of how I'm going to mount it. So I've got the battery on the one side and a gas tank on the other side, and I've got my critical points that I would like to put bolts through, and then I've got where I want my gas tank to go and kind of the strap design. I'm thinking I'd like to get maybe the gas tank and the battery tied together somehow with maybe a tube or something, so that this whole thing mounts in. It's not just one side or the other. I'd love to design it so that it's very simple. You just undo all the bolts, the whole thing comes out, put all the bolts back in, easy out, and everything mounts to it. So my actuator that I'm going to add, that is going to share the same mounting point, I think, as the gas shock, or it might be slightly ahead of it, I'm not sure, but it's the same stroke as the gas shock, so I don't see why they can't share pivot points. So now, with kind of a general idea of what I want to do, I'm just going to go to CAD, start designing a little bit of a plate. My other idea is, because the gas shocks mount outboard of the motor plate by a few inches, and there's so much weight on them, I think it would be nice for them to be supported a little bit better. So I'm going to run a tube that goes all the way from gas shock to gas shock, and that kind of matches our kind of tube cross member in the back. It'll be super strong to pivot the body off of the full weight of the body. That's the idea. That's how I got there. I'm just going to go start drawing it up, cut a few pieces, and see where we go. Okay, sometimes I get a little bit ahead of myself, and this is one of those times. So basically what has happened is I've done a lot of work, and we have a problem. Now, these pieces are made to fit like this. Oops, there we go. Goes in there, the bolt would be going through here, the bolt would be going through here. That's okay, it's a little snug, but that's okay. The problem I'm having is that I put a hole, which you can see here and there, to have my cross member come across. That is the strong tube that our tabs will be off of for the gas shock and the linear actuator. That's this tube right here. Now, here's the problem. This tube, where those holes are, runs right into the brake caliper, which is this right here. So that tube interferes with that right there. Solutions. This point has to be very strong. There's hundreds of pounds of force on either end of this, and the tube sticks out past a few inches. So there's a lot of force on that. That's why I wanted it to be a solid cross member across. What I could do, I could recut these plates, move the tube hole far enough away that it misses the back of that brake caliper. Then the tabs that I've created may have to also be modified to reach the spot where we want them to be. Or they might not need to be modified. Actually, I think that we'd probably get away with it. I think what I have to do, unfortunately, is remake these larger plates. I can reuse these ones because they don't interfere at all with that screw up. So what I can do is recut these plates, the larger plates, with this hole moved over enough to clear the back of this. There's other ways I could do it, but I think honestly that's just the easiest way and probably the strongest way. One of the other ways I could have done it is I could have put that tube out, that hole, and just cut it off so there was no cross member across, and I could have strengthened it up some other way. It's going to be easier to have that tube run all the way across. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to redesign that plate to come all the way across, and then we are going to drill the holes to be bolted to this motor plate up top. Then we can kind of bolt and clamp everything together. See these little tabs at the bottom, those will weld to the frame. There's a little bit of movement there, a little bit of, wiggle room anyway. So we're gonna be able to bolt it at the top, clamp it at the bottom, test fit everything. Mostly, is pretty good. I think that you can see what I'm trying to do here. This battery would sit onto the bracket like that. We'd have some strap over the top that holds it. That rounded area here would be for the gas tank. I would put some rubber, just some 1/4 inch rubber tube that a slot is cut in it. I left a little bit of room here so that I could have some rubber that we clamp down onto the gas tank with. So this and this will be part of our top clamp. We'll design that after we get this kind of put in here. we are in there. Pretty stoked that the battery sits where it does and the gas tank sits where it does. It's exactly what I was going for. I'm just gonna pop this out for a minute and explain what I did to modify. So that tube in here, I ended up just drilling with the mill and a hole saw, just a hole further away. And then I also trimmed off the second bolt hole here because I don't believe that it actually needs it. We've got a bolt going to the chassis here, we've got a bolt going to the chassis here, and then one here. That's extremely strong. Yeah, I think that's gonna be fine. These tubes down here are just to connect these two pieces to kind of widen out our bracket to spread the load a little bit, and that piece bolts on as well. This, I think for the battery, we're gonna put some kind of plate on the bottom and then either a hinging top strap or another plate on the top that just simply ready rods down around the battery. That's the idea there. This is still, like these mounts here are for the actuator. This one is for the ball on the gas shock. I wanna thank everybody in the comments for reminding me and letting me know that the gas shock should be mounted upside down, or what it looks to be upside down, so that the oil stays around the seals of the shock. So instead of mounting them this way, they should be mounted this way. And the reason being is so that the oil is constantly around this seal and then they don't dry out and they don't wear out. Thank you for that. And the gas tank, same deal. I'm just gonna run some rubber along the bottom edges here, and then I'm gonna make some kind of clamp to the top. This tube and this tube are in there and not fully snugged up yet because I think we could make some kind of hinge that connects them, maybe with a wing nut, something cool. So what I'm gonna do next, before I tack the top stuff there, because it would be nice to be able to fold the body away to get at the top stuff, I am going to install the actuator. Compressor, good timing. The actuator and then the shocks. I'm also gonna have to install the actuator upside down like this rather than like this because of lack of space in here. The axle, if I put it one way, it hits the axle. If I put it the other way, it hits the bracket. So that'll go in upside down. I'm gonna install all that, get it moving, and then we'll do the top of the gas tank and the battery.
Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone.
Okay, so we've got this little remote set up we're gonna try out. To be honest, the actuator isn't super fast. I kind of like how fast the gas shocks lift up on their own. And since I did move the bracket up a little bit to get a little bit more travel out of the gas shock, it does kind of raise it faster and farther. So, you know, I mean, this thing is cool, but I think it works great without it, to be honest. But hey, sometimes you got to use the thing you already bought. So I'm going to try and figure out this little remote system here. It's pretty neat. It just plugs right into the plug that's already on the actuator, because this is all from the same company. And there's just 2 wires that go directly to power. So I got a couple jumpers here. So I'm going to put, what is it? Let's see, blue is red. So that would make our blue is red, so brown is ground. There's that. We've got power going to it now. I'm just going to hold on to this to make sure that we don't short anything out. And let's see, how do we hook this up? We haven't put a fuse on it yet, but we will. How to pair the wireless remote control to the base unit. Press the FC button on the wired base. Green light will flash showing it's ready to be paired with the wireless remote. Press the white button on the top of the wireless remote until it stops flashing. It stopped flashing. The wireless remote is now ready to use. Is it? Is it really though? Oh, I'm a dummy. I didn't put batteries in it. Pretty sure you need batteries. Okay, let's try that again. Press FC, press the top one. It's flashing. Press this button. Stops flashing. Oh! Oh! Okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. It's like my favorite TV show, the Baby Buick. Says it's good up to 50 feet. I'm gonna go run out there. That works. Oh, that's too much fun. So I just got this in the mail. This is just a little vacuum fuel pump. And so it's got an arrow here, an arrow here. This is in, this is out. So the fuel goes in. There's a little diaphragm inside, vibrates back and forth, pumping the fluid through. This port is for a vacuum signal from the engine. So what guys do with this type of motor, there's a couple different places that you can grab your vacuum signal from. One is by tapping into the valve cover here. 2 is the hole that the governor pivots on has a vacuum signal in it. If you were gonna take the engine apart, delete the governor and do all that, you could plug into there, but this is the easiest way. You just drill and tap, you know, just a 1/8 NPT, little nipple like that. Anyway, I'm gonna try it. I think it should be fine. I'd like to put it right here. This is kind of the closest to both fittings. Directly under this cap on the bottom side is the fuel fitting. So what I'm thinking of for the gas tank and the battery box, like I said before, is gonna be like some kind of strap situation. And I've got this round DOM tubing that can pivot a little bit. So I was thinking I'll make some kind of strap over the top that also has the vacuum pump on it. I like making brackets that you can kind of get two things done with one bracket. And then I've got a couple of wing nuts. I think it'd be cool if I could wing nut it, maybe a wing nut over here, same type of idea, like a strap that comes across with maybe a wing nut. You know, that's what I'm thinking. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw that up and get it on. Okay, so I'm getting off track here because I was working on those straps, but while everything is out and accessible right now, I want to show you guys as well the gas shocks. They actually don't have enough strength at the end. They're twisting on both of them. The reason being is the design of that tab just doesn't have enough material at the end that matters. Also, I am going to eliminate this actuator. It's just too slow. If we put it in a different location, we could make it faster. That's an option in the future. What I'm going to do for now is just redo the gas shock lowers and continue on with the gas tank strap and the battery strap. next. Like I want to make a little spacer washer for the wing nut here because it hits the side. I'll probably make a similar one here just so that they match. I hope that you guys got a feel for my fabrication style a little bit, where one thing leads to another. Like I start off with trying to do the most simple thing first. Just take certain measurements that are known. They're not a variable measurement, like where the mounts are going to be, what the size of the tank is, those types of things. And then once you have those locked down and sort of drawn out, then you can get an idea of what's the next step. You know, let's make the shapes that these brackets are going to be, that's going to work well. Sometimes we run into issues like my brake caliper. It's not an exact science, but when one thing leads to another, you can just slowly progress and change as you go. Anyway, that's just the way my brain sort of works when I'm trying to make a bracket that does multiple things. For me to just think of this bracket at first and decide that that's exactly how it's going to be and know exactly what everything's going to be, that's crazy. I can't do that. Like you could do that in a 3D CAD software where you build it literally in there. For me, it's got to be one piece. We make the bottoms first, then we'll make the tops, right? Like there's simplified steps. And for a lot of you guys, you don't have a CNC plasma to cut all this stuff out, but I only had that machine for a couple of years. So before that, I would just do this all out of cardboard. It's another type of CAD, cardboard assisted design. Yeah. But if you built this all out of cardboard, you could literally make this all out of cardboard and know whether or not it's gonna work for you and be able to change it easily with scissors and whatever, and then go to cutting it out of plate. Yeah, I mean, that's how I love to fabricate stuff, you know? One thing leads to another. And anyway, happy with it. I'm gonna throw the tank and the battery in it once it goes back in the car. These tabs that we tack to the table, those are the mounting points to the frame. And then these bolts bolt to the motor plate. So I'm gonna bolt it back in, clamp these to the frame again, weld those up. Then we'll put the gas tank in, battery in, and we'll be done. All right, well that's it for this episode of Make It Custom on the 1956 Buick mini car. If I hadn't mentioned before, my friend Cam Fletcher, he's no longer with us, but he built this body from a full-size 56 Buick. I'm just kind of carrying on his creation and trying to finish it. I just want to address that we did miss a week of videos. For personal reasons, we just couldn't make it happen. We're happy to be back. Don't expect to see any more hiccups on getting you guys a weekly video, but thanks for sticking with us. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take her easy.